So he made you change your name? What else did he do?
Well, I mean,
I was just getting him fit for a digital online persona, Esmee.
I now dress exclusively in black as well. That's the other thing Dave made me do.
I'm Dave Chapman.
I'm Esmee van der Giezen.
I'm Rob Kernahan.
And this is Realities Remixed, an original podcast from Capgemini. And this week we are talking about the end of the season. What we loved, what we learnt, where we might go next, what's going to happen. Esmee's here, Rob's here. How are we doing?
Good. Woohoo.
Good. Are you ready for a bit of reflection?
As you know, I always like to go over old ground, rake it up and find out if it was correct or not. So yes, I'm up for it.
Of course, we're going to audit the trends, Robert.
Was I right? Or was I just on something? Who knows?
Let's see. We've got 37 trends to get through today. So everybody's
Is it an hour
in.
each, Dave? Is it an hour each? Sort of like some monster
something like
podcast.
That. Apart from when you bang on about cybersecurity again and we have to do about 90 minutes on it.
You love it. You do. You love a bit of security. You love a bit of safety and security.
Exactly. Esmee, are you looking forward to that?
Yeah, well, no, I was just thinking that you probably in secret, you listen to Rob's voice over and over again for him explaining. So, yeah.
I like when, when you go to sleep, I like to just have Rob droning on about passwords and security.
Yeah. So me whispering in your ear, passwords need to be 14 characters long, need to be capital letters and special characters and numbers.
Yeah. I like that bit. That's my favourite bit.
Yeah. And then he just repeats constantly.
Yeah, exactly. It's lovely. It's like, it's like a soothing loop.
I do think, though, the systems are a bit ambitious when the operating system suggests a password for you and it's 20 characters long and it's just a nonsensical string and you just sort of go, that's just going to be copying and pasting that for the rest of my life, so it doesn't work. Yeah.
Are you really going to talk about passwords now again?
I mean, look, didn't take much, did it? just like a little trigger there.
Yeah,
anyway, I will move us on very quickly before we get dragged into that wormhole. The other thing,
black hole,
is
David. No,
saying.
a wormhole takes you somewhere. A black hole might be the end of us. So I think black hole's better.
Let's say that. Right. So we're in the beginning of the summer, and we're going to reflect on the season before we go off on summer holidays. Now, before we do that, though, it's been a bit hot, hasn't it?
Oh, too hot.
Yes.
Too hot.
Way too hot.
So we're in a lull in between two things. I've learned a new word that I didn't know existed, but every now and again, some word pops out and people use it as if it's been around forever. And I'm like, where did that word come from? Like a heat dome. Do we all know what a heat dome is?
It's just it's a thing. I learned about that the other day. They're going, there's a heat dome over Europe, and you go, what's a heat dome?
I know, it's like,
I was the same.
But they were using it like everyone said heat dome for years, but I've never even heard that phrase.
So people who believe in flat Earth, they...
Oh, Marcel.
Producer.
Classic production moment.
Fail.
Spam from the UK.
Don't you dare edit point that. Don't you dare edit that.
No. This is all of the show. Spam phones from the UK. So people who believe in flat Earth believe there's a dome. Eh? So maybe there's a link to a heat dome. The dome on the flat Earth.
Maybe that's what it is. It's a meteorological phenomena where a strong stationary area of high pressure traps hot air over a region, acting like a lid on a pot.
It was first used in 1950 and 1960s, David. So it has been around for a little while. Heat dome. There's a graphic and everything.
I've seen the graphic. It's quite something. Anyway, so we're in between heat domes at the moment. We had a very, very hot heat dome last week. It really was meltingly hot. And I believe there's going to be another heat dome next week.
Yes, which I'm not looking forward to at all. Because, 24, 25, 26, lovely. 33, no, not in our heat. No.
We put like a little... I don't know, like one of those, effectively like a big paddling pool. It's about 2 or 3 feet deep, something like that, and about, 10 foot across or 8 foot across. We put one of those out in the garden thinking, that's going to be nice, going to sit in that when it's a bit hot. It was like sitting in a hot tub. I'm not even joking, it was ridiculous. Actually made you hotter going to sit in it. It's very disappointing. Anyway, let's crack on with our season retrospective. Now, A couple of things to talk about changes to the show that we did over the course of the year. So the first one is you may or may not have noticed that we changed the name. Some of our listener figures would suggest that you either didn't notice and just thought that Cloud Realities had finished, or you didn't pick up that Realities Remixed was the new version of it. So
like my dad.
To rest right now, like your dad, exactly. I think we had a bit of a worry about that. I think we're through that now. That's good. That's goodness. We're back. So we changed it. Now, why did we change it, Ez? What drove us to doing that?
I think we saw the broader conversations that kept on or increasingly took over the show. So yes, we always started with technology and cloud, obviously. And but tech has, made such a huge evolution. And our conversations did the same. We were talking about tech, but then suddenly it was also about business because we were talking about outcome of that tech, the impact within society, and obviously the people that carry the tech, that build the tech, that use the tech. And that broadening of conversations led to a different name, I think, emphasizing that.
I think that's very well put. Rob, what did it mean to you?
So the technology that we started talking about is now everywhere. And therefore, you need to broaden your scope to say what it's impacting. So things have moved on. It's become a thing that just exists. And so why constrain ourselves with the conversation? And we weren't constraining the conversation anyway, hey? So we might as well change the show name to reflect the conversation we were actually having. Yeah,
that's what it felt like to me in very simple terms, exactly that. Like the show name should be representative of, I think, a bigger, broader, more inclusive conversation. But yeah, it is the impact aspect that Ez was talking about. I think technology is so pervasive in our lives, whether that's our professional lives or personal lives, that to step back a little and examine that from the positives, the huge upsides that can be driven by intentional leadership and a technology-driven change, but also guard against some of the downsides that might happen and be aware of that, because I think it's the responsibility of leaders in this day and age to consider all of those aspects and not to constrain thinking. It's just a mad rush to some sort of value that might be illusionary or might actually have some unintended consequences. Now, we hope you're enjoying that change to the show. Like we said, it wasn't a massive change we didn't feel in terms of the conversations we were having. I think we were there anyway, but we just kind of really formalized that. Do let us know, though. As usual, at the end of the show, Ez will talk about the how to get in touch with us, and we'd love to hear what you're thinking about it, and as we think about what might happen going forward, what we need to build into that. Now, one of the other things that happened this year, I think that we were delighted about, was we got some awards, Marcel. So tell us about the awards that we got.
In November, we received 3 different awards. So it was a sort of global industry award. That's really amazing that we received that. So it was a B2B marketing award on best content and best consumer retention. I'm really proud on best content because that's reflecting what we're doing and brought it to the market and people like it. Also, the judges really liked it. And there was also the Drum Award for best creative audio. And that's also a link, of course, to the whole team, but also to Ben and Louis, who are responsible for the quality that we bring each week. So overall, really happy to receive 3 different awards at the end of last year. So yeah.
Yeah, really, really delighted about that.
Hashtag not that crap.
I mean, some would say that. I wouldn't go that. In fact, I wouldn't go that far. I don't think. Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But it was really lovely. We do this show, I think, because we enjoy it and we enjoy the exploration, and hopefully you hear that. But to have a bit of a little reflection that others are enjoying it too is wonderful. So thank you very much.
And the funny part was that for the B2B Awards, it was in London. I was live on stage 2 times in tuxedo. I felt like a little bit like James Bond, not that handsome, but it was really nice to have a tuxedo.
It would have been nice to go to that, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's.
Are you actually going to be the next James Bond? That's the big debate about who's going to play that character next. Is it you, Marcel?
I'm too old. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, that's what they say. A younger Bond. So yeah, there we go. Like, really delighted about all of that, and onwards. Now, it's not all been wine and roses of late. So Esmee joined the show a couple of seasons ago and brought a very different perspective to the show, one of human exploration and thinking about the nature of organizations and systems and the humanity that sits at the heart of a lot of what we talk about, and has really heightened that aspect of the show too. It has improved the show through that heightening. But I am really unhappy to say that the Esmee era is ending, Es.
Yeah,
Why
it is.
are you leaving us? Why are you leaving us?
Well, it simply feels like the right moment. So the podcast really helped me discover what energizes me, what my voice is. You guys helped me find my voice. I think that it's been an evolution for me as well. Like how do I tap in? You know, what's the right moment? Do I dare to say edit point? You're so fast in your thinking, and obviously English is your mother language. So for me, it was also, what do I have to add? You know, it's not the technology that I know most. I think that was a bit of my journey was also about, okay, so I don't need to talk about the tech, but I need to talk about what I think and what happens in my head. So I think I grew through the show, at least that's how it felt for me. And now it's time for me to make room for a new adventure, whatever that may be. And it's also, you know, leave on a high note. I think that's good to leave it here and bring all the experience with me and the conversations with the guests and the experiences that we've had live. I think the events has been a true adventure as well. And also the behind the scenes. How do you make a podcast? How do you create a golden thread? Like you do, Dave, you always, you know, bring us back to the golden thread. I think that's very inspiring to see. Rob tapping into the tech part. And I love to hear an architect that is also able to see the role that he plays in the system. And the banter, of course. And I love Marcel being Marcel, which gives a great dynamic. And also, it's so much work to produce a podcast. And I don't want to lift the magic lid up of a podcast. Let's leave that. You know, it's just a conversation that pops up and that's it. But behind the scenes, it takes so much effort. So a huge thanks to you. And of course, also Kishore for doing our socials. It's very, you know, helpful and great to know that somebody's pushing that socials to the audience as well. And Ben and Louis, you're able to lift every episode to a higher level. So yeah, it's been great. It's been wonderful. And, you know, we're not going to be strangers. So just excited.
The show has been a better, warmer, more lovely place for having you on it.
Absolutely.
And you have brought new perspective and challenged us in our thinking in terrific ways.
I completely echo that sentiment, Dave. It's been great. You've changed the dialogue. You've changed our way of thinking. You've definitely helped advance the way we deliver the pods and the focus we take on it. So hopefully we will sustain that going forward, albeit very sad to see you exit stage left.
I mean, it's not only been the dialogue you brought, some of the practical production elements that you brought that were new were great too. So the videos that we did at some of the live events were entirely orchestrated by Ez. And I think one of the biggest responses we got to any of one of those things was us doing it in the car on the way to the airport video, which I think it was excellent. I watched that one back. Yeah, I mean, just what a contribution, Ez. It won't be the same show without you. We'll try, no doubt, to do stuff, but it's not the same without you. So we wish you all the very best for what you go on to do next, and send you off with a huge thanks for what you've brought to the show.
It has been a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Esmee.
Now, let's get on with thinking about what we have done this season, the last season of the Esmee era, indeed. So let's move into that. So shall we talk about the trends that we set out in February and reflect a little bit on what we've talked about this season and what popped up? So let's just quickly remind ourselves of the 37 trends that Robert set out in February. Are you ready? Deep breath. Sovereignty, is this in no particular order? Sovereignty, agentic AI. No, you really saw that coming, Rob.
I'm a truth sayer. I'm a visionary, crystal ball. I foresaw.
I don't know where you picked that up. I don't know where you picked it. How you managed to join the dots on that, I don't know. Human AI interaction. We did some stuff about the cloud itself, and I think changing underlying infrastructures for the cloud. We talked about scaling AI and the move from proof of concepts. We talked about, adoption lag. and what's going on with that in terms of organizations' readiness for some of this very accelerated technical innovation. We talked about physical AI, quantum computing, the underlying hardware acceleration, and then Rob bored us all silly with a very long section on cybersecurity, if I remember correctly. Really spoilt the end of the episode.
Now it's necessary to remember that we should be at times secure.
What do you think about Mythos, Robert?
Mythos? Well, it's back, isn't it? It's back. You can have it again. It's the everybody
it's a tailored
said
version now, like an international version, I understand.
Let me give you a statistic about Europe. 80% of the technology that we use in Europe is imported. And so what the Mythos Fable export control conversation did was basically go, well, you know what? Maybe something that you rely on today may not be there tomorrow, which was exactly that case. Now, it's back now because of the concerns have been addressed, etc. But I think that has created quite a conversation, especially around the sovereign point, which is ever reliant on external things that other people control. And suddenly you go, well, is it going to be there tomorrow when I wake up? And how much do I rely on it? So there, other models were available to fall back to, but yeah, it's just it definitely started a spark of conversation that was quite rapid.
Yeah, I think it was quite helpful, to be honest, because it actually really showcased when you're that invested in external tech, what it can actually mean. So I think it's very good on a macro scale. It was a good tryout.
Well, I think it also pointed at how cybersecurity is really going to have to fundamentally shift. I mean, it's already started to shift in terms of the use of, AI in trawling vast amounts of data and all of those sorts of things. But actually, the level of automation and speed that the whole thing is going to run at, and the way it can penetrate unknown vulnerabilities, it's like next level stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. So you get to this point where, we were joking at the beginning about AI taken over, but this is a classic example of where you could we're close to technology that could run away with something that we don't want. And so suddenly we find ourselves exposed, and it gets into the hands of nefarious actors who don't have a moral compass like the rest of us, and they use it for bad things, and it could be very serious and broad. You could see, the fear was that it could cause a massive incident in the banking sector.
That's right.
The financial sector collapses, the world as we know it will not function properly. So we're talking about things that could be catastrophic. So now is a time where we need to be maybe a little bit more considered and careful as the technology gets to such an effective level that it can do good things and it can do bad things.
So let's start with that little reminder on cybersecurity, because cybersecurity actually in this season is something that we didn't over-index on. So I thought it was worth sort of starting at the end, if you like, from that perspective. And let's get into the rest of the trends that we talked about. And let's start with the 2-letter acronym that dominates everything at the moment and pulls a few of the, I think, threads together. But let's come at it from a scaling AI perspective initially. So we were talking at the beginning of the season that it was highly likely this year, and so this was this time last year, as we were thinking about season 5, that we would shift from proof of concept into better understood scaled frameworks, and that we were likely to hear about that a lot at the conferences, starting with Microsoft's Ignite, then going into reInvent, and then going into Google Next, which has just reasonably recently happened back in April. Now, did anybody spot any scaling AI stuff at any of those things?
It did happen, yes. It was most notably when we went to Google Next, where they were trotting out use case after use case of people deploying it into their core. And there was quite a lot there. So, and I think execs were keen to make sure that they did do that. There is one interesting side effect to the scaling, though, which is the conversation about tokenomics, and the cost of AI is in sharp focus now. And there's lots of stories about organizations blowing their AI budget in 3 months for a year. So. And the recent analysts are saying that AI will never be as cheap as it is now. And some would consider it to be relatively expensive because the true cost of the way the investment cycles are going hasn't been revealed yet. So there's a lot to come on this scaling point, which is it might scale, but there might be some interesting tokenomic conversations that go on.
Let's get on to the mechanics of scaling to start with, and then come back to some of those challenges. And by the way, if I ever use the word tokenomics, just end it there.
That's the term. That's the term, David. That's what
I like
we
it.
use.
I can't do it.
Tokenomics. Tokenomics.
I can't do it. I hate made up words.
It's not made up. It's token and economics smudged together.
It's
It'll be in the
made up.
dictionary.
That makes it a made up.
Oh.
That makes it a made up word.
The dictionary reflects how people are talking, not the other way around. So if people are using the term, it goes into the dictionary. That's how it works. It'll be
Is
in the
that why you were
dictionary.
such a big supporter of Skibbity going in the dictionary?
What does I don't know that. What is it? Explain, expand, Chapman. Teach me.
You do know
Teach
that. It's
me.
what all the Gen Zs were going on about, wasn't it? And the alphas.
Skibbity?
Skibbity, yeah.
What's it? I
And,
don't. I really. You have got me there. What's the?
No, it's funny to say that in front of an alpha or a Z, like my kids, for example, because they cringe when an older generation says it. I mean, this is about a year old at this point. I'm surprised you're not on top of this, Rob.
I'm googling it now because you won't tell me. Spell it.
Oh, SKIBIDI, I think.
Skibbity.
I mean, this is top-notch podcasting, isn't
It's
it?
a gibberish term coined by the creator of an animated YouTube series that can mean cool or bad, or used with no real meaning as a joke.
See, you were struggling with 6-7.
Yeah, oh God!
Remember when
it
you
doesn't
struggled
mean
with
anything.
6-7?
Yeah, skibbity. I'm like, what?
Skibbity could mean good or bad or have no meaning. It's
Wow.
post-language.
It's just how do you? Can you imagine the poor man or woman who has to sit there and write that term into a dictionary? Sort of
imagine
what's
like
the meaning of this word?
Sort of an elder person sitting in a dusty basement trying to, kind of handwrite things into the Oxford English Dictionary, and they're like, I think somebody's misspelled this.
Dave, I think it's a new word for the wiggle, eh? So
Yeah.
it's yes, no, or maybe. So
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Skibbity. I'm going to use that today with my kids and see what happens.
You'd see
If
what-
they
yeah,
just
get to see
cringe
the
at me.
reaction.
They will cringe.
the
There's
reaction.
lots
and you have
of,
1,000 different wiggles. So maybe in this case it's also more than 1,000 options.
I'm putting tokenomics solidly into the same bucket as Skibbity at
No,
this point.
there's a very clear definition of tokenomics, and it only means one thing, not this confusing newspeak we're coming from the younger generations.
Anyway, what were we talking about? The scaling of AI. Let's get back to that, shall we? So, I think we've seen a number of different things happening here, from patterns of deployment to an enterprise stack becoming emergent and the new layers that might be required in that. Concepts of enterprise reinvention as a result of AI. So this is thinking about not just it from the technology up, but actually, what fundamentally is it going to do to my business? Does it change fundamentally what I need to do as a business? So let's start unpicking a couple of these things. Enterprise stack, Robert.
Ooh,
New layers. You're the level 4. Set it out for us.
The layers, David. The layers. So we'll still have, like, at the bottom, your systems of record. They're going to be around for a long time. We'd like a lake house. Yeah, that'll probably be in there as well. But there's those. Then there's sort of like the very important part, which is the semantic layer or the enterprise context. So the understanding of what that is. So yeah, we could stick an AI over the top of it and an agent can go. But if we are able to describe the context of the enterprise that we're operating in, it gets much more effective. So what does this actually mean? What is the value you're really looking for? That is actually extremely hard to do. That is probably the hardest part, to describe your enterprise and semantic layer. Then you got a load of tools and connectors and things that help you bring all that together. And then that's where the agents sit. And then above that, you have some form of orchestration, which is how do you connect it all together to make a business outcome? So agent to agent. Underpinning all that, there's some sort of control plane, which is giving us guardrails, identity permissions, the monitoring, audit and compliance, security, etc. And then at the top of it all, you've got the experience layer, which is you as a human. Get something as an outcome, a process outcome or a business outcome or an experience outcome, etc. So you sort of build through those layers. So it looks a little bit different or quite different to what we're used to when we think about traditional digital systems. So there's new concepts in there, like the semantic one, that people have always wanted to build a semantic layer, but now it's even more important than it ever has been if you want the agents to be able to operate autonomously. So that's broadly what we're starting to look at now from a stack perspective.
And I think we're seeing the age of you really, 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 really do now have to sort your data out.
Oh yeah, it's like it's the architect's "I told you so" moment. I know I've read it before, but every enterprise architect's be there going, "We really should better govern our data, manage it, control it, get the metadata right." And everybody's gone, "Oh yeah, tomorrow, manana," and now they've gone, "Oh no, we should have really done that 10 years ago." But anyway, we are where we are, onwards and upwards. If you didn't plant a tree 10 years ago, the best time to plant one is now, as the proverb goes.
What's interesting, though, is that you start talking about the layers from bottom to top.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of conversations in this season are about the business implications, right? So what business transformation do I want to, get to, and then dive into those layers. And we all know that those business outcomes, the customers and getting close to that customer are far from linear than we still think, or at least the systems think it is.
That is a very good point. It is the way we need to think about it, but what is the outcome we're trying to achieve, and then work out the things that go beneath it. So yeah, I think sometimes, especially from a technologist perspective, and I have fallen foul of this myself many times, is we like to think bottom up because that's how we understand the world, as we're able to build the foundations. But actually, you still need to architect the vision at the top, don't you, to say what's the brave new world actually look like? And
it is actually never been more important to do that than through concepts like business reinvention. Because I think what people find is, this maybe connects a little bit to your made up word point at the beginning, Rob, which is when you do start to properly evaluate the bottom up build of this stuff, it ain't going to be cheap. It ain't going to be cheap.
So it has to be worth it, right? You want to be sure that it changes something in your financials. Yeah.
It's not all sizzle, is it? There's got to be a fairly chunky bit of beef in there somewhere.
I think, and this is where I think there is a real risk of the companies getting outpaced dramatically. So there's loads of startups in Silicon Valley which are agentic-only organizations, and they're trying to build these systems that, just have no humans in the loop. Yeah. It's just one human at the top or on the loop. But it's the whole thing, not just like a part of the thing. And they're waiting for the first unicorn to emerge, so market cap of $1 billion with those organizations, and then they could just dramatically outpace the traditional. Now, there's lots in there that there are physical things that still need to be managed and supply chains and stuff like that. But actually, if we start to see that work, the pressure is going to be on for the traditional organizations to have to move at pace, and the cost will be quite high. And so your business model might need to change off the back of what's going on quite significantly.
Well, I think it's sort of, let me just turn that point around. I think if you're running a business today and you aren't looking markedly different in some way, shape or form, there's almost no point in making the investment. Like the investment is going to be significant. So therefore you have to be thinking about what aspects of the performance or the products I deliver or how those are going to function, or I've got to change because my market is going to be so fundamentally impacted by this, that if you're not understanding those dynamics from the top down and re-examining exactly what it is you're providing as a business, or the pace that you're working at, or the price point you're working at, if those things aren't fundamentally impacted by this, you ain't getting the best out of the technology.
Yeah. If you're investing in AI just to have AI, but your business looks the same, something's gone wrong.
And that might be the most obvious thing in the world to say, but if you look back at technology over the last 20, 30 years, that has been a sort of a fairly sort of profound pattern, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's like the digitization versus digitalization point, exactly, which is many people took a paper form and turned it into an online
slightly
form.
faster digital one.
Yeah, it's like, great, well done. But some use digital to fundamentally transform their business. And we saw new businesses rise. So don't forget the likes of Netflix and Uber, the words come in, Dave, converged technology stack to do something completely different. Yeah. It's the classic blockbuster. We all love to go back, which they had the option to buy Netflix, I believe, or something like that. And they turned it down and thought the physical media was the future.
50 million.
I know.
Was on the table for Netflix.
Bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Netflix go from I'm going to send Hollywood movies to you through the internet to I'm now making the Hollywood movies that win the Oscars. So again, they're pivoting their business. They're a good example of a business that keeps changing. But maybe they've got too big now, and maybe they're struggling with some of the things that big corps have to deal with.
It comes to all of us, I think.
So question, do you think that big organizations are able to make that shift and the investment instead of being overhauled by a startup with running 5 companies on their iPhone?
If ever there was a time to test that, Marcel, it is now. So it's a very good point, but I don't have the answer, but we will see in 5-10 years, we will be able to look back and there'll be a chapter in a book about it. Dave's memoirs, chapter 26, will be all about this. The Chapman Chronicles. That's the name, the Chapman Chronicles, detailing the life of a superhero in technology. I think I've just written your book for you, Dave.
Volumes 1 to 20. But to go back to Marcel's, but yes, I do think it's possible, but I think it's going to require very, very significant acts of leadership, and that will be the failing. If you look at the Blockbuster example that Rob gave, that was lack of vision and leadership. But then if you look at Steve Jobs' turnaround of Apple, that was about visionary leadership. And then you can argue what the post-Apple world has been like post-Jobs, but the turnaround of it was going down the road of basically becoming another tech, another HP, like we'll do printers and we'll do all kinds of stuff and we'll sell third-party things. And Jobs was brave enough to come in and go, no, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to have one product to start with and we're going to do that really, really well. Then we'll add another product and we'll do that really, really well. So he transformed Apple in a way that required like absolute clarity of vision and then bravery about what you're doing with your organization. That's the level, I think, of leadership that's going to be required to drive these turnarounds. Now, is that visible? That's a very good question.
I think that's exactly what Peter Hinson was talking about in the conversation that we've had with him, emphasizing the power of the Phoenix organizations, which are larger and all the elements that come with a larger, maybe legacy organization, compared to a unicorn. He's all up for Phoenix organization. So that's what I loved about his view on tech and embracing the possibilities and rise.
I think that is absolutely spot on. Yeah, it's exactly what's going to be required to create competition between the new entrants and transforming large-scale organizations. So we talked about the stack. We talked about the new layers, the importance of data in this world. We've done to death, I think, but you can't overstate it. And frankly, you still see many organizations still struggling with it. The semantic layer and the agentic control plane are two new concepts at enterprise scale, I think. So Rob, just give us the quick 101 on the semantic layer and the control plane.
So the control plane is the thing that basically manages your new agentic setup, agent to agent, how they operate, what they can do, how they're governed and controlled.
Whether they're doing good things or bad things.
Exactly.
Monitoring. Yeah.
So there's this. So if you think about your business, what we used to do is configure transactions into systems that were fixed. Agentic allows us to vary. This control plane is now the thing that governs how the business transactions execute. So you got to think about the control plane as being your business. The control plane is how you define your business as code, whatever. But it's that is the thing that is you. The semantic layer is the thing that brings the context into that setup so that it can be effective. So think of the semantic layer as driving the efficacy of the solution and the agentic control plane as the business setup and structure. And those two things need to work together. They are new concepts in how we set up an enterprise with technology, and hence why we need to focus on them, because without them, you will without a control plane, you will end up with chaos. And without the semantic layer, you will end up with very low quality results from your AI.
Now, let's go above those two layers. So above those two layers are where you get the human AI interface. You get the agent layer itself. And then, of course, you get humans. So are we in the age of tools to teammates?
I think so. Well, yes, but we're also still very much on the level of making things more efficient, I think, and using it And to be honest, I have the same. I don't know if you know, the way you have to prompt to really have a teammate that helps you out and does, really helps you to get your work done more efficiently. I think the prompting is still something that most of the engineers understand. But most teammates are still a little bit, I don't know, in high school. I don't think they're real grown-ups. So yes, they can help. They're a trainee maybe, but on the level that they're really helping you out on such a level that is really a true comparable teammate of a human. I think we're far away from that, I think.
Early in the season, we had Kevin Serres on, and Kevin talked about the meeting he was at with the great and the good back in the Valley in the 90s, where they talked about digital assistants, and I think Clippy was the result of that. And I think his point at the time was that we might be in the age now of where Clippy is actually less of a gimmick and more of a real thing. Yeah. Are we seeing that emerge yet, do we think?
No, we are. So if you use, AI to help you out, reason, set things up, it can save you a huge amount of time, just as a personal individual, let alone if you stick it in the middle of a business process to do it properly. The bit I'm very disappointed about, Clippy, is, Dave, that Microsoft haven't jumped on that and put it as the face of Copilot, and they've gone for a horribly corporate. Well, it's like that. I would embrace Clippy, because I like to anthropomorphize AI. Clippy is the perfect way to do that for me in my day-to-day.
Let's not talk about what you do of an evening with anthropomorphized AI, Robert. This is a family show. It's a thing that is, a lot of people are learning to use AI in that Copilot fashion, which is why it's called Copilot. Anthropic's very good at it, as well as is Google Enterprise. And you see more and more people are learning that this can do something useful for it. So I think when you talk about enterprise scaling, it's also the social scaling of AI, which is, you be at a barbecue or a dinner party, whatever, somebody pulls their phone out to check something and they're on AI, and it's that which is, I'm using AI to, help design the holiday or the experience or whatever I'm trying to do. It's happening more and more. I felt a bit judged by AI yesterday.
Did you? What did it do? Did it just say?
So it was a positive judgment, but it was still judgment. You know what I mean? And we were in the middle of a meeting, and then all of a sudden the meeting assistant popped up and said, "Things are going well. You're on track."
I love that.
Thanks very much.
That, yeah. But there's a side effect to that, right? Is it, so you switch on the facilitator for the meeting. There are many versions of it, and it keeps you on track. It's good. It's something prompting you. We always said when AI started, it was human that would prompt AI, and now we always said, it's getting good when AI starts to prompt the human, which it is. Classic example that happens more and more. But the other thing is we're recording absolutely everything, right? And I think when meetings are fully transcribed, it changes behavior in the meeting.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Still need to have that I'm not being recorded space to get some honesty out sometimes, where maybe we feel a little bit less inclined to do that when it's all being transcribed. So I do think actually it's changing the way we interact as well, maybe for the better, who knows. But what I do find is when you have everything transcribed and you miss the meeting, you can come back and get a summary really quickly. So again, that's another useful trait.
It's certainly very helpful. And I think you're right there in terms of the behavioural change. So when you think about the foothills we're in at the moment of human AI collaboration, how's it landing on you?
But I'm not quite there yet to understand. Maybe the thing, to go back on what we just talked about, the word teammate sounds very connected. Digital assistant feels more as it is, at least now, in social conversations, like, for example, in Teams or on Slack. Because I understand the facilitating part, like you're on schedule, you're on time, etc. But does it really go underneath what's not being said? Does it also prompt, I haven't heard that person yet, or I'm very curious about what that person has to say. So what I tend to see is that more and more people also see that AI it's giving you what you expected. You're very happy when oh yes, that's what I mean. So it's that's very confirming, but it also confirms in the way you think about the world. And that's something that I'm now also wondering, are you still being surprised? Do you still see like, oh gosh, yes, that's interesting. But if AI continuously say and knows you more and better, at least the way you think, will you ever be surprised again? And that's something that I'm very, I don't know. You can use it, and I think that's very good. I use it every day and a lot. But at the same time, it helps me really appreciate humans with all their good and their bad and their, the good behavior, the ugly behavior. So that's what I see from my perspective.
There's that backlash about the smart glasses as well, isn't there, about recording everything? That continues to be a thing. So humans do feel different when they know they're being recorded, whatever form that might be, video, text, etc. So I do think there's a bit of a social conversation we need to have about when and where is it acceptable to do this type of stuff. Because it's really obvious when somebody pulls their phone out, but if you've got a pair of smart glasses on, and I mean the ones we tried from Meta with the screen inside were ace. They had a really good application to help me out day to day. But you know what? I mean, people may not feel comfortable with others wearing them around. And I don't think we're quite having those conversations yet in society about what is acceptable, about what is tracked and traced. Because it can be very useful, but it can also be sort of unnerving.
Yeah, it's underhand, isn't it? And it undermines trust you have in certain interactions, whether that's an interaction in a business meeting, or I've seen people use those glasses on social media when they're going in to record something explicitly that they've been asked not to record, and they say at the beginning of the little clip, "Yeah, well, we're going to go into such and such a shop now and try and record this transaction," when explicitly the shop would prefer you didn't do that.
Yeah.
It makes me think about the panopticon. I don't know if you know it, but it's.
I mean, that's a good word. That's a good word.
It's a good word, but there's a
better than Rob's tokenomics.
Oh, there's a psychological mechanism behind it that it's because of the prison. I don't know if you know it. It's a design in 1791, and the idea behind it was a circular building with cells all around it, and just to have a single guard in a tower in the middle that was able to see each and every one. They thought, okay, just the idea that I'm being watched makes me behave differently. And that's like how many decades ago that they were already thinking about that psychological mechanism. And now we actually see the same in tech. Just the idea that you're being watched, you hopefully, well, I don't know, it's good and bad. I don't know. Are you being authentic then? That's the real question. Are you?
I think that's the big question. That's the big question.
And you know what? There's this, like, let's take OpenClaw. People building their personal digital assistant with OpenClaw, and they're basically handing OpenClaw access to all of their data. And great, it can do great things, but you hear all the bloopers. Hannah Fry in the UK did it. She's a famous scientist on social media, and it started sending random emails to journalists and things like that. And you go, well, you shouldn't have given it the ability to do that. But then you've still got this thing about it reaches out. Who's got access to where you've sent your data and all this sort of stuff? And you sort of go, there is great use, but there's the privacy thing we just discussed, and everything we do is being monitored. And then there's everything we know and have might be made available. And it's like this thing about, are we ready for that? Are we there yet?
Are we ready? The other aspect of this human AI layer is the nature of the AI itself, and whether it is a true intelligence or whether it's merely a batch job. We talked to Scott Hanselman about this point, didn't we, when we were at Ignite last year? And Scott was very specific on his view of where we are at the moment, at least with agents, which is, I think to use his phrase, a sophisticated batch job. So what level of intelligence do we think we should infer to these things at this point? And when I say intelligence, I'm talking about sort of general intelligence. The other thing I think that is, well, there's two things that are being proved at the moment, among many others, but occurred to me for this talking point. The first one is, it's becoming more and more clear how the intelligence we're seeing at the moment is regurgitated stuff from other areas. Rob and I Rob put a thing on our podcast WhatsApp group the other day about a music service that was basically effectively recreating Johnny Be Good almost exactly based on a specific prompt that didn't refer to Johnny Be Good at any point. There's an excellent example of just pure regurgitation without any real kind of overlay to that. Alternatively, in the world of work with agents, and to a certain extent, the good side of creating Claude to reply to your emails and things like that, is the levels of automation these things are already achieving is actually quite incredible. Like, it's sort of through the roof.
Well, if you, there's two views to this. So the Scott Hanselman view is, I understand how it works, so I'm going to call it an intelligent batch job. But there's the other side, going back to the human experience, which we've discussed before, which is, if I perceive it to be intelligent, is it intelligent? So I don't understand what happens inside the box. I just see the interaction I have with the box. So the Turing test has been smashed. AIs can, they can pass degree level examination. They're good enough to sort of write PhD theses when correctly controlled. If I'm just on the receiving end of what it is creating, you would perceive that to be created by something with a form of intelligence. So it's that classic of, I don't know what's going on in your head, Dave, but I perceive you to be an intelligent being. But you could be you could be a very intricate computer sent here by aliens to create this podcast, right? I don't know, but I have an interaction with you, and I go, well, there is intelligence there.
Well, I mean,
what I liked about Scott is that he really emphasized, don't make it human. Don't make tech human. Don't do it. He was very, outspoken about that. It's just tech. It's nothing more.
We're a bunch of chaotic neurons that are firing, and if you look at each small part of what our brain does, it doesn't look to have any form of intelligence, but then through the chaos and collaboration of it all together, it creates us. So what's to say that we're just at the very early stages of intelligence, and we just need to keep scaling it? It's the Sam Altman version of creating intelligence, isn't it? If I keep scaling the system and get enough chaos into it, it'll start to be intelligent.
So I think, but I think the warning signal here, and the thing that I think is at the heart of this for me, is how you wrestle with integrating it into culture, whether that's
100%
generally or whether that's your organizational culture, isn't it? And at the moment, should it be thought about as tools, or do agents need their own HR department?
Well, yeah. And we also talked about, the example of sales leaving behind information just because of all the structures and the processes that go into play once you talk about when are opportunities being closed and what does that mean? I think there's so much social involved in companies because it's in the end, the company is just, what is it? It's just a word. It's the people that make the company. And I don't think you can ever, at least I don't think that tech can ever get into that without causing friction and chaos, because it also has a status quo that needs to be saved, and that's people, and you're touching on their wallets and you're touching on their power. And yeah.
I agree, but do not underestimate rampant capitalism when it comes to technology and the pursuit of profitability. I think we'll see some decisions made by some corporates that will surprise initially, but will be seen as a way to drive that system more effectively. And it's I'm not sure we're going to strike that balance effectively at the beginning.
Brutally honest.
Yeah.
I know we had a conversation with one of the guests. I don't know if it was recorded, but the question was how many people are employed with your company? And then he thought about 10 seconds. And I thought, that's not a difficult question. And he said, 30 humans and 270 agents. And that was really sort of an eye-opener that people are counting sort of agents as people. And yeah, that was really weird. I give it also example to my friends. I said, yeah, this is really what's happening. So it's a company with 300 people, but 270 are agents. So that's weird.
Yeah, no, it is, isn't it?
We talk about human resources, which I find it's very
it's a terrible
weird,
phrase,
right?
isn't it? Yeah,
but now we do have
supportive
tech resources.
Yeah, quite so. All right, let's bring scaling AI to a bit of a close for today's conversation. But before we do that, I want to talk about perhaps a constraining factor for this, which is the technology itself. And kind of at the moment, it's taking kind of endless amounts of power to drive this sort of stuff, and it feels like some form of hardware breakthrough is required, and we had Yetiware on, who took us right down into the very hardware that these systems are built on and questioned whether we were even writing software right in the first place, and that some form of breakthrough was required. It feels to me that is probably correct, isn't it? Whether it's Yetiware or something else, that the current platforms we're on don't feel like they're... It sort of feels like very brute force scaling at the moment to drive some of this stuff.
That's a good way to describe it. You look at the power consumption of the new data center racks that are coming in. It's horrendous, multiple kilowatts in a rack. And then cooling systems where it's submerged in like futuristic gel to be able to keep the cooling, etc. You go, it is absolutely brute force scaling to get the capacity under it. And it's not sustainable from an energy perspective. And it's not sustainable from you can't just keep scaling like this. So something fundamental has to happen in the stack. That's either a software change or a hardware change that drives more efficiency. You've got TPUs and MPUs and things like this, which are focusing more specifically on the task, but their fundamental underlying construct still isn't as efficient as it probably needs to be. So yeah, you're absolutely right. We'll hit some limit somewhere, either water or power or something that will curve it unless we innovate and change.
All right, one of the other things I thought that we did in this season, maybe more than we've done in any other season, is kind of look at macro trends, and we were lucky to have a couple of amazing guests, actually a number of amazing guests. The ones that jump to mind are Dex Hunter Torek, Andre Loos-Krug-Pietri, Peter Hinson, and a number of others who gave us some very wide-ranging views of technology and society and what's happening. And let's start maybe by just going back to some of the things that Dex was saying. So he runs an organization called the Center of Tomorrow. He's worked in multiple different large-scale tech organizations, so seen big tech from the outside, and now has a specific passion on how technology should be positively integrated into the world and into society, and makes the argument that at the moment it's outpacing global leadership. So we talk about the adoption lag in organizations, like organizations can't move fast enough to integrate technology, or their investment cycles aren't moving at the pace that's going to be required or the scale that's going to be required. And I think what he's saying is that macroeconomically the same thing exists, isn't he?
Yep. Basically, the world cannot cope with the challenge that it faces. I think that is the fundamental underpinning, and that's with technology, and that is also with climate change, and that's with political discourse and all of that. The system is now too complicated for the system to be able to cope with itself. Which, I mean, it doesn't sound so much fun when you think about it, and it isn't, but it is the stark reality of the system that we live in is not able to cope with the things the system is creating.
Yeah. And he talks particularly to governmental agencies with sort of leadership and political frameworks that are still slow and reactive to what's going on, which sort of swim lane for swim lane, you can see how that might happen. But what he also points out, which is there's an exponentiating fact here, which is these things interconnect. So it's not that there's just a pandemic or there's just a massive acceleration in tech or whatever it might be, but these things interrelate to each other in a way that's becoming very, very difficult to govern.
And you sort of wonder where the system's going to go, because then you get to what is the pressure point that has to be created to allow the system to adjust, to be able to cope. And I don't know what that is, but it feels to me at the moment like there's going to be some event or something happen, and then everybody has to readjust, because at the moment you can't see the system changing because it doesn't feel the pressure yet in the way it needs to.
Yeah, and he, I think, talks to some of the aspects, and you touch on this occasionally, or the show touches on this occasionally, about tech being inherently capitalistically driven. Yeah. And I think what he also argues is that the governance of it should be treated as very much political choices and societal choices, more so than just being rushed into because it's some sort of inalienable good, where I think it's sort of proving that it kind of can be misused as much as it's being used for good. However, the positive side of this was how technology can be used to mitigate economic inequalities. It can be used to support democratic systems and maybe some of the geopolitical instability that we're seeing. So I think he argues, I think, for a positive future. But one of the things that really struck me from that episode was how much he sort of shines a light on the complexity of the position we're in at the moment.
Yeah, the system, humans are good at dealing with chaotic environments. That's what we do. We're all individuals. We can bounce off each other to do it, but it's all coming together very quickly as I'm not sure we've formed a strategy that's going to deal with it. And that strategy, I don't think anybody knows how to start to tackle it. His view of for a better future was the right one, but it's underpinned with if there's not a seismic shift in the way our world operates, it's not going to be able to be delivered.
Now, one of the other big thinkers that we had on the show was Peter Hinson. So, Ez, set out what the never normal is.
Yeah, so the never normal is really about change is a constant. We continuously need to adapt, and it's not a transformation that starts on January 1st and then we hope to have the milestone on November 12th and we can just go from A to B to C and etc. It's constantly adapting to whatever you see that's happening with the vision. I think Peter Hinson, for me, is a great example of using storytelling as a leader. Why are we doing this? What is the purpose? But also related to how is the technology going to be used in that sense, and continuously as a leader adapt and know what's going on. And I think to tap on to the previous item that we're talking about, it's power play as well, right? So we see a lot of power on a high level, and as long as the power is still for economics and not so much for the better good, that's the way we're being challenged and also being led at the moment by leaders. So that's the new normal. It's not going to change. We have to get used to changing constantly in our job, in the way we live, in what we do.
Well, and let's return to Hinson in a little while when we talk about some of the organisational aspects of this. But before we get into that, we had André Leuskrug-Pietri on, and he looks after the Joint European Disruptive Initiative, or JEDI, who are call themselves the European ARPA. So they're there to try and understand where Europe is in the world today and how it might sponsor technology leapfrogging. Now, of course, this also, I think, interplays a little bit with some of the discussions we've had over this season around sovereign and the changing nature of sovereign as the geopolitics of the world shift. So, Robert, this is your favourite subject, I think.
It's the one that occupies me a lot. I wouldn't say it's my favourite, but yeah, okay,
you had a
we'll
terrific
go with that.
meeting on it this morning, I heard.
Yeah. I think Europe was caught sleeping whilst the US was investing in Silicon Valley, and China has put in a huge amount of effort to catch up. And so what we have now is we have two superpowers from a technology standpoint, and I'll go back to the stat I used at the beginning, 80% of the technology that Europe uses is imported. Therefore, there's this idea of we're highly dependent on other countries' capabilities to deliver this digital future. Do we have autonomy over our destiny? Well, no, not if we import 80% of our technology. But where are we sat at the table when we think about this compared to the US and China? And what I like about JEDI is they're the exciting part of the future. So we talk about what we just did about can the system cope? What JEDI is creating a bright future that allows us to cope and might get us a seat back at the table that says we now have something that everyone else needs, and we have that position where we can command a better conversation around technology and how it's used and who gets access and all of that good stuff. So it's brilliant that it's happening. It's brilliant that it's a government-funded organisation that can behave like a private organisation, and it has this really strong vision of delivering moonshots, which are we're not going to be incremental, we're going to be transformational, and we're going to leapfrog the system that we see today. And so I find JEDI is one of the most exciting organisations we've talked to because of such a brilliant idea for the future.
Yeah, and of course, the very present aspects of that are organizations that are trying to deal with, in a world of 80% imported technology, how does my digital supply chain be something that I can control, or at least I feel like are within the sovereign boundaries of my organization. Now, this used to be relatively contained at the data level, I would argue, if you roll back maybe even 5 years, but certainly if you roll back 10 years, it was fairly well understood that most people were in sovereign data centers of some description. Cloud comes along, cloud disrupts that position. The argument I always made at the time, I fully confess, is that you can deal with sovereignty issues with the architecture. So you can create zones can be in countries, etc. But that wasn't sufficient, was it, Robert? Why was that not sufficient?
So you have to think about how much autonomy you have over your digital assets. So that's what's your legal control, your operational control, your technology supply chain control. Data is important, it still remains, and the skills you need. Can another organization take that away from you? So I might be sat in cloud, but the concern is that that cloud could be switched off by another government making a decision. And in fact, we've seen a number of things in the world where that has happened through sanctions and restrictions. So the Trade Bank in Amsterdam was a Russian organization that got sanctioned and it had to shut down overnight because it was based in cloud. They've only just opened that up and got the assets back, but they're now in control of the Dutch. So that was an example of a country getting sanctioned and a business losing its access and fundamentally not being able to work. People are now looking at that and going, as we see geopolitical change, what risk am I actually exposed to? So I want access to best-in-class tech. I want to do all the whizzy things that this can do, but will it be there tomorrow? And is it my decision to what happens to it? And so we love the abstraction of cloud and the benefit, but sovereignty makes us inspect that abstraction and understand and make sure we trust it. And it's not complete isolation. What it is bringing trust into the technology conversation to say, do I trust this technology? Yes. But do I trust the countries that are in control of this technology as well? Because they might be able to deny me access to it at some point.
Don't know if you've seen the news lately or this week. It's in the Netherlands, and they're talking about a golden share. Do you know that aspect? A golden share. So
I thought you were going to say something else there for a second, but glad you're able to share.
No, not that. God,
David.
Yeah,
I was wondering where you were going there.
It was good pronunciation.
A share, a stock. Is that better? The Dutch Ministry of Defense is investing over 30 million in a software company, which is also a US based, and they now want to see and search and research whether it's possible to have a golden share, which means that they have the highest priority in terms of direction and decisions that are being made. And I think that's very interesting. If we're talking about 80% that is, export or import tech, what if you just buy construction and have a golden share, you're able to, have that control.
Does it prevent the extreme situation of, in adversary, the switch off of their services?
I don't know. When it really comes down to if you still care about a golden share. I think that's the biggest question. Is there trust enough that the golden share is really functioning as a golden share?
Yeah, and like I said, whether in adversarial situations, it counts.
Yeah, so if you speak to the analysts about sovereignty and control, that top layer, that legal and operations, they will say, I don't care what you have beneath it, what is the construct of the board and who controls the board of that organization to drive the company forward. And then you've got the one above that, which is can a government legislate and change the way that board needs to behave? And that's the level you have to look at to understand who has true control over the entity that's creating and delivering your technology.
But let's actually just stick on trust as a theme for a bit, because it's sort of popped up, hasn't it, as in a few different places across the season.
Yeah.
It's in the world of AI, in institutionally, in how workers are being re-examined around remote work. It's a big thread at the moment, isn't it?
It is on so many levels. I think it's looking at HR or, people needing to come back to the office because we actually need to see you work here. That's one part of trust. And does that really help? I think there are a lot of different experiences, even in our room, about working remotely and being at the office or not. Do you like being at the office?
I like bumping into people you've not seen for a while and the social connection. So I really like that part of it. And you reconnect with people and it can create new threads.
Well, you can't get better than collaborating with other humans in a room.
Very true.
The creativity of that, even the mechanical planning of that, I think is almost inarguably better than what you're going to achieve in a kind of Teams call.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I'm miles better at a day of Teams calls sitting in my room at home than I am sitting in an office.
Yeah, there's that classic go into the office and spend all day on Teams. You have to plan when you're going to do your interaction and when the humans, that connection matters, I think. And we're not so good at planning that in. It can't just be, I'm going to be in the office these days. There are some organizations that tell everybody to be in with particular teams and they synchronize around that. And I think that can work extremely, extremely well. So still very important, but I think we need to be more intentional about how we connect and not just blindly go in and just stare at our computer screen for the whole day.
And how we lead in that situation. So I thought Tim Curry talked about that, didn't he, Ez?
I think what Tim actually emphasizes is that you can't simply replace trust and technology. You know, it's not, we'll put in the technology and then the trust will be there. So I think we've be incredibly good in being really efficient and being focused on that, productivity and spreadsheet managing. But in the end, trust is also about, I don't care where you work, as long as you get the job done and ask me for help when you need it and be transparent about it. That's a real different leadership style than most of the leaders we tend to see doing, is that once they are less and less out of control for their feeling, they tend to grasp and, ask their people to report more often, to come into the office and to make sure that they feel more in control. So I think the true leadership style is about, providing a lot of safety and trust in your people, in everything that you do and the way you talk to your people and how you allow them to work together. And something else that we also discussed with Jitske Kramer, who is an anthropologist, and her view on trust, it's all into rituals, right? The rituals is being, if someone's birthday is there, to bring in cake in the office, to have a ritual when people are leaving or when they're retired, or all those elements and those social parts, those are the ones that build trust. And yes, you can send flowers to someone home, but if you see that the card was really made by a computer, to be honest, I'm like, okay, so that process is in place. But if I have a handwritten card that has, emotional feelings with it, I think that's the one that really touches me. And not we've got the process in place. So those are all rituals and elements that Jitske emphasizes that really build the trust between people.
All right, well, we're nearly there, I think. So let's just, though, talk for a little bit about organizations and what some of these things we've been talking about mean for running organizations and changing organizations and transformational acts. So systems thinking is something that comes up a lot in some of the conversations we've had, both in this season and in previous seasons. Systems thinking helps us understand how a system's constituent parts interrelate and how systems work over time within a context of larger systems, which sounds like just so much waffle. But actually, when you start thinking about organizations and the human relationships, and in fact, what you were just saying there, Ez, about human rituals, they are systems, aren't they?
Everything is interconnected. And we don't know how they're connected, what influences what. And once you think you know it, a split second later, it's different again because everything's moving. But being able to do that and at least try to widen up your perspective and know that there's more to it, I think also emphasizes the fact that you have to work with hypotheses and just check it. Is it correct what we're seeing? Is this the product that, is this a feature that is really making a difference? And to have that short feedback loop, knowing that you cannot know it all and that everything changes all the time. So that requires a whole different setup in organizations.
So now, where does this become important, I think, in terms of the sort of subjects we talk about? Predominantly how you can use technology to drive outcomes in your business or transform your business, is that increasingly things are interrelated, whether that's at macro level, whether it's at organizational level. And we repeatedly have guests, whether they're in running organizations themselves or whether they're in organizations that are supplying technology or services. They talk about the difficulty of transformation, the changing nature of it. We talked about it with Hinson in the Never Normal. But can problems these days be solved within a single department or just a single area of technology to drive profound change, Rob?
No, A causes B is no longer the way we need to think about it. And the bit for me in systems thinking is mental models need to change. So traditional leadership, as we go into this new epoch of computing, they need to challenge the way they think and the way they solve problems. And those feedback loops need to exist. So looking at really how we're doing stuff and then challenge, are we doing the right thing? So the bit that I think people struggle with a lot is that you might have to adjust core strategy based on the way you're operating. And when your mental model is fixed around how you deliver something, that can be very hard for the human to do. So how do you change your core mental model to be able to use things differently or do things differently so that you get a better outcome? And the world is so complex now, and the interconnectedness is driving this idea that the way we used to design systems is no longer good enough. So yeah, it's causing a bit of a reboot in the way our leadership models have to change as well.
Yeah, and Hinson mentions 3 guiding principles. As a leader, you need to anticipate, so spot signals and opportunities earlier. And I think those signals can be of any kind. Embrace uncertainty as a possibility rather than a threat. And I think that's right. That's it. You cannot be in control. So stop trying, but at least embrace the opportunity. And also build organizations for scalable learning instead of scalable execution. So how can we learn what's changing? What do we know now, what we didn't know yesterday? How can we learn from what we're doing? What is the feedback? That's completely different than execution, lean, mean, optimizing A, B, C, etc.
And it goes to leadership styles as well, doesn't it? So we had on Phil LeBrun and Jana Werner, and they were talking about their book, The Octopus Organisation, which describes a move from mechanical organizations into more, kind of octopus-like, which I think they describe as having intelligence out on the legs as well as in the center, and therefore distributed intelligence across an organization could and should be leveraged. They talk about different mindsets for leaders, which I like, and I think goes to the point you were talking about, Ez, which is prioritizing adaptability over optimization, and a distribution of authority to the edge, outcomes, not tools. And that's, I think, particularly pertinent when we talk about the scaling AI elements that we were talking about before. Let's not be technology-centric in our thinking. What do we think about that? Do those threads come together for you?
What I like about it is if you compare it to the spider, which is more of a traditional organization. If you cut off the head, it's gone. A lot of people tend to look at leadership is the head of the spider, and decision making is in the head of the spider. But if you look in the octopus, decision making is distributed throughout the company. So decisions are as close as it can be to the work. So real autonomous teams that continuously make their own decisions to make sure that they can keep going forward with the knowledge that they have as close as they could be to the problem. So that also requires a high level of trust. Trust your people, trust the systems that they're able to make those decisions in line with what you vision the company to be.
I think one of the important things for me, though, with the Octopus Organisation is, yes, it creates autonomy and freedom, and trust is there so that the limbs can go off and do what they do. But you still need to give clarity to the part of the organisation to say, what is your role and goal, and what are you targeting? Now, you're not prescribing how they get there, but you are saying, this is your purpose. And I think we shouldn't forget that organisations still need to understand their core purpose and what each part is trying to do and how they all come together so the sum of the parts is greater. Yeah, so there's still that importance that you can't just let the organisation be free and go. There still needs to be some form of direction, albeit lightweight, that allows everything to come together at the end when it matters.
So there we go. A year in summary, or a season in summary at least, and just check back in on those trends that we said at the beginning. I think we touched on most of them. So we touched on some of the more macro shifts that are going on that are impacting all of us today, whether it be in our personal lives or our professional lives, including sovereignty. We've, of course, talked about the AI stack, so agentic AI, human AI interaction, scaling and specific models for scaling. Talked about the cloud itself, some specific trends in the cloud and changes in the cloud, driven by sovereignty and driven by AI in particular. We have talked about underlying hardware changes and brute force aspects of hardware today. And we opened with the importance of cyber, though we haven't touched on it a great deal this season. There has been some macro shifts in the world of cyber. When you reflect on the year, just by way of bringing our conversation to a bit of a close, what does it feel like to you, Ez?
I feel like we're really getting down to the human part and the business part more often. I think the AI and the possibilities in quantum, we know that, but I think the real impact on what it does to our lives, also because it really integrates in our work life and in our private life, I think as well. It makes us more able to really feel and sense, how is this going to help us? Do we actually want this to be, I think that's for me still the biggest question. Do we still want technology? We say that life or people, we're not going fast enough, but are we? Because tech is going faster than we are, or I think that's, for me, that's the question that keeps popping up. Is there a way, or is there going to be a moment that we're going to say, no, we don't want it? Dot. That's it. Yes, it's beautiful what it can be, but we don't want it as a society and in humanity. So that's what pops up for me. But because we can now also pin down more and more examples in real life, that's going to help us find our way to embrace technology or not.
I think from my perspective, we've entered troubled waters. We're sailing somewhere and the world is more uncertain and it's not got better. And we have this vision of what technology can do for us at the other side, but are we going to get to that land? Who knows? Or are we going to capsize in the middle of the ocean? So it's not a very positive way of thinking about it, but this season has introduced complexity and it's introduced uncertainty and it's introduced a bit of doubt as well. And we've discussed that, I think, as we go through. And I'm looking for hope on the other side, but at the moment I see dark rain clouds ahead on the horizon, and we need to batten down the hatches so that we're safe and secure in what we do enter into. We do it with a little bit more confidence.
Yes, I like those perspectives. We are introducing thinking machines into our lives and our businesses for the first time in a way that's going to cede control. And there's huge potential for that. There's huge potential for freeing up our time to do different things, and maybe a new age of renaissance is around the corner for humankind. Or there is darker versions of that. And I think that those are the problems that we're wrestling with at the moment within an increasingly uncertain world. So I think absolute reasons for optimism here, but wow, do we have a leadership responsibility that we should stand up to.
Right to the top of the shop.
Now, we end every episode of this podcast by asking our guests what they're excited about doing next. And that could be something amazing coming over the summer. It could be professional ambitions. It could be a good restaurant that you've got booked this weekend. Now, we haven't got guests, so you're going to have to make do with us for this. So, Ez, what are you excited about doing next?
We are going to Alaska, and I'm so looking forward to it. And we're going to go all in, right? So with the water plane, then go above Alaska, and we're going to watch the bears, because only in those 6 weeks they catch the salmon, right? We all know those pictures, so I love to watch that. And we're going kayaking, canoeing. So yeah, that's what I'm very, very much excited about.
Have you watched the YouTube show Outdoor Boys?
No. Is it going to help me or is it going to scare me?
I think it will excite you about it.
Oh, okay.
So it's this guy, extremely charming, warm guy who he will go off into the wilderness and, take a tarpaulin with him and then go and survive and build a shelter and stuff. And it's all in like Newfoundland and Alaska.
Ooh.
And it looks absolutely stunning. And there's snow episodes, there's winter episodes where he'll go and build an igloo or something. And then there is sort of more summery episodes, which is probably more like the experience you're going to get. You should watch a few of those.
Ooh,
it's
yeah.
such a nice show anyway.
He's ace. That guy is absolutely... I've been watching him for years, and some of the stuff he does, you just go...
It's absolutely amazing.
If the apocalypse does come, he's going to survive. That's the man who survives.
He'll be the leader. He'll be the leader.
He'll be the leader of the resistance.
Yes.
That's what that's going to be. Yeah. As the machines rise up against us, he's going to be the one. He's John Connor. He's our John Connor.
You're my John Connor. But he does this stuff where he'll go out in the middle of a snowy wilderness, dig down like 5 feet of snow, sort of create a bit of a 2 meter by 2 meter square of ground. Then he'll start a fire on one side of it until it warms the ground up. Then he pushes the fire onto the other side and rotates the fire overnight from one side of this space to another, and then sleeps outside.
Wow.
It's absolutely incredible stuff. Anyway, Alaska looks wonderful. You're going to have a good time there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, looking forward. What are you going to do, Rob?
Well, I'll tell you what I'm excited about is I've got a new barbecue. And barbecue season is upon us.
Oh, there we go. The meat conversation.
Well, it's got to be, right? So, like, we're starting this weekend, but it will. I didn't have as many barbecues as I wanted last year or the year before, so I'm gonna double down on it.
Was that because of
now.
equipment, or was that because of you couldn't be asked?
I'm not sure. It's a mix of many conditions, busy summers, etc., and aligning everything. But we are now going to be more intentional about it because they're great fun. You sit outside. You maybe have a couple of cups of tea. You cook some nice food. It's a great social experience. So I'm gonna double down on that, and that's what I'm excited about. I've got a brand new barbecue, as my old one eventually gave up the ghost after 15 years, but now we're good to go again.
Now let's talk tech. What accessories did you get? Did you get any?
Yeah.
Have you got some new like barbecue tongs and that?
So no, I haven't. I'm going with the traditional old school one that I already have, which I had a good set. I do have an apron though that has like multiple funny aprons, Dave. That you
Does
wear,
it say
like,
"Born to Grill" on it?
Yes, stuff like that, or James Bond's. Yeah, all that sort of thing. So we got a few of those. Got Homer Simpson's body, and then my head sits on top. That's another good one I like wearing.
Work.
Oh my God.
But the thing is, though, you deploy
Is it
the
Homer in his
comedy.
underpants?
Yeah, well, yes, it is. Yeah, he's just in his white Y fronts, right? And then you it's really obvious, but everybody loves it, and they get into the spirit of it. It's like the idea when you go to a theme park, you just got to get into the spirit of what that theme park is, type thing. So it's good. It's good. It's fun.
Theme parks being a big interest of yours. We've never done that on the show, have we?
No, I do
love theme
I do need to get out to a theme park this year as well, and as I'm getting older now, I do actually feel the pressure of theme parks. So I love going on roller coasters repeatedly. Absolutely love it. And now I do find myself getting a bit wibbly wobbly after my 5th time on the Smiler. I went on Smiler, Alton Towers. It's an incredible 16-loop roller coaster in short order, 8 loops and a fast 8 loops. And I did find after 5 times I needed to sit down for a bit.
Your neck was hurting.
No, it was more about I was blacking out. But anyway. Yeah. Right, Marcel. Over to you. What are you excited about doing next?
I think I will visit again my kingdom of Bonaire and try to survive this summer. So I will.
Well,
do so.
I expected you to say that because I got an alert on my phone to say the economy of Bonaire has just picked up. So I took that as a lead indicator.
The Department for Education gets another year of funding.
Yeah, exactly.
So now
They're all really. The children of Bonaire are delighted about this.
Yeah, they're standing on the on the strip to wave that he's coming back. He's
to welcome your
money.
private jet in.
Yeah. No, so I try to survive the summer. So some deep sea diving, also some climbing, and maybe some base jumping. So
base jumping? Hello, what?
Maybe
base
I hope
jumping?
to survive.
What are you talking about?
Base jumping, Marcel.
Living on the edge, you never know if you make to the next
your
season.
life insurance isn't
add
listening.
that? Did you just add that?
I just made it up.
We
I
need
just
no
made it
intention
up.
of doing base
Are
jumping.
you actually going base jumping?
No way. But it was a nice sort of. It triggered you. So, no, my main goal is to survive the summer. So let's see what happens.
Good luck with that.
Yeah,
Good
thank
luck
you.
with that. Base jumping.
And you, Dave, what are you doing?
And come on, Dave. What are you doing?
So I think what I'm looking forward to over the summer is it's more of a feeling than a specific. It's more of a feeling than a specific thing, in the sense of that summer vibe where it's a bit hot, things slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Things are just a little bit more mellow. People are going off on holiday, so the frantic pace of life, just for a few weeks, just slows just slightly. Yeah. That I think this year, for one reason or another, really looking forward to just a few weeks of that.
You'd love living in the Nordics, Dave, because they just go, right, it's July now, we're all off, see you, wave, and they come back in September.
I mean,
and
where
the
do I
whole
sign?
calendar is defined by we don't do anything in July. And what I love about the Nordics is stable economy, good social cohesion, really positive environment, positive outlook and future, and they take the summer off. And you just sort of go, what have they got right that everyone else hasn't?
I mean, where do you sign? I think
I know exactly. Where do you sign?
There's one of the few things that a number of European countries get right is a respect for that kind of thing over the summer period and time with friends and family and to kick back and enjoy life. Can't advocate for that enough.
No, indeed. And there's lots of funny videos online with the American team interacting with the European team, highlighting the cultural differences between holidays and working patterns and everything else, which I really enjoy watching.
Slight aside to this, but did anyone see the couple that climbed up the Empire State Building this week?
No,
Yes.
I heard about this, but I didn't see it.
So there is a Netflix film called Skywalkers.
Yeah.
And it's a couple of Russian sort of young people. And they are sort of known all over the world for, scaling buildings they effectively break into a building, sleep there overnight, and then it allows them to get up onto the roof, and then they scale up like whatever thing it is. But they scaled up the Empire State Building this week, which is first week of July, and get right to the top. And I thought what was particularly lovely about it was that they hung a flag up, and the flag says, "When the power of love beats the love of power, the world will know peace."
Yeah.
Ooh. Profound.
That was
They got
quite lovely.
engaged as well, I've just read. They got engaged at the top.
up there, yeah.
So I'm assuming it wasn't a legally authorised climb.
I don't think it was sanctioned. They got arrested afterwards, so it probably tells you that it wasn't. But yeah, what a lovely statement to start the summer on, I thought.
You know what? There's still maybe hope in the world, David, after that. It's like there's maybe a little glimmer of light springing up that we can latch onto.
If you would like to discuss any of the issues on this week's show and how they might impact you and your business, please get in touch with us at realitysremixed@capgemini.com. We're all on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you, so feel free to connect in DM if you have any questions for the show to tackle. And of course, please rate and subscribe to our podcast. It really helps us improve the show. A huge thank you to all our incredible guests for sharing their insights and expertise throughout this season. To our sound and editing wizards Ben and Louis for making every episode shine. To our producer Marcel for keeping everything on track. And of course to you, our listeners, for joining us every week and being part of the journey. We wish everyone a fantastic summer holiday filled with rest, inspiration and adventure.
From Frank Herbert's June. Once men turned their thinking over to machines in the hope that this would set them free. But that only permitted other men with machines to enslave them.